Vera Kessler watched the door to her new quarters slide shut with a pneumatic hiss that felt distinctly ominous. The small room, barely large enough for the utilitarian bed and desk, was located in what the hegemony called the prey wing of Omega Station 7. The designation made her jaw clench. She placed her single regulation bag on the bed and took a deep breath, forcing her shoulders to relax. This diplomatic posting was exactly what she had requested. After all, being assigned as the human representative to the hegemony's diplomatic hub was a career-making opportunity. Even with the insulting Prey Plus classification her species had been given. The room's architecture spoke volumes about the hegemony's hierarchical thinking. Low ceilings pressed down uncomfortably on her 5'10" frame. The lighting was too bright, designed to discourage hiding. Even the air circulation seemed to push sense toward the ventilation system that led to the predator wing, where species classified higher in the hegemony's biological ranking system enjoyed spacious quarters with commanding views. Vera unpacked methodically, arranging her diplomatic credentials on the desk. The formal documentation was embossed with Earth's unified government seal, designating her as Diplomatic Representative First Class. She ran her fingers over the raised insignia, reminding herself of her mission's importance. The communication panel on her wall chimed with an incoming message. The screen illuminated with text in standard hegemony script. Notice to all station residents. Interspecies. Harmony demonstration. Mandatory attendance. Arena. 7. 1400 hours. Station time. Vera checked her translator implant's time conversion. The demonstration would begin in just under an hour. She had hoped for more time to settle in and prepare, but perhaps observation would prove valuable. She changed into her formal diplomatic uniform, charcoal gray with subtle blue piping that denoted her Earth origins, and made her way to the station's main corridor. The hallway widened as she approached the central hub, where various species from across the hegemony's territory mingled. She noted the effortless way the corridor design directed prey species to walk along the periphery, while predator species commanded the center. Architectural enforcement of hierarchy seemed to be a hegemony specialty. A tall, scaled Zephyrin administrator approached her, elongated pupils dilating slightly as they made eye contact. The translator implant rendered the administrator's clicks and whistles into smooth standard. Representative Kessler, I am Administrator Zexy. Your timely appearance is noted and appreciated. The Zephyrin's head tilted at an angle that Vera recognized as evaluative. As the newest arrival to Omega Station 7, you have been selected for today's Harmony demonstration. Vera maintained her diplomatic composure despite the sudden tightening in her chest. What does this demonstration entail, Administrator? A simple participation in our dominance recognition protocol. You will enter Arena 7 and experience the hegemony's hierarchical acknowledgement procedure. It helps new arrivals understand their place within our peaceful cooperative. The word peaceful seemed deliberately emphasized, though Vera detected what might have been amusement in the administrator's vocal modulation. I see, she replied evenly. And what exactly does this procedure involve? You will be introduced to a Hunter-class representative, who will demonstrate the biological superiority that forms the foundation of our harmonious society. The procedure is entirely safe for properly submissive prey species. Vera noted the critical distinction: safe for submissive prey. She had studied the hegemony's classification system extensively during her preparation for this posting. Humans had been categorized as Prey Plus, physically inferior to predator species, but granted diplomatic concessions due to their technological advancement and territorial holdings. It was a classification she intended to challenge. I look forward to participating, she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Cultural exchange is, after all, why I'm here. Administrator Zexy's scales shifted in a pattern that Vera's cultural training identified as satisfaction. Excellent. Please proceed to Arena 7. Your prompt participation will be noted in your species cooperation index. The arena was a circular chamber with tiered seating surrounding a central floor. The architecture was reminiscent of ancient Roman colosseums, though the materials were the sleek composites favored by the hegemony. Vera noted approximately 200 spectators of various species already seated, with clear division between those classified as predators and those labeled prey. An announcement echoed through the chamber in multiple languages, with her translator providing the standard version. Attention all station residents. Today's Harmony demonstration will feature human representative Vera Kessler and Hunter Vexi of the Zephyrin delegation. Vera was directed to the center of the arena. She walked with measured confidence, scanning the crowd and cataloging the reactions. The prey species watched with what she interpreted as sympathetic resignation. The predator contingent displayed various signs of anticipation, shifting postures, dilating pupils, and in some cases, visible salivation. A door on the far side of the arena slid open, and a Zephyrin significantly larger than Administrator Zexi entered. Hunter Vexi stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales and prominent jaw muscles that bulged beneath sleek facial skin. The hunter moved with fluid grace that belied its size, approaching Vera with what her training identified as ritualized stalking behavior. Human. The hunter's translated voice carried throughout the arena. You will now acknowledge your biological placement in the hegemony's natural order. Vera stood perfectly still, maintaining eye contact despite the cultural taboo against prey doing so with predator species. I am prepared to participate in this cultural exchange, she replied, her voice clear and calm. The hunter circled her slowly. The procedure is simple. I will demonstrate dominance through a ritualized bite. You will submit by remaining still and accepting this biological reality. This establishes harmony by acknowledging the natural order. From the corner of her eye, Vera could see Administrator Zexi and several other officials watching intently from a private observation box. Among them was a Proximan representative, their bioluminescent communication patches flickering rapidly in what her training suggested was concern or objection. I understand, Vera said, keeping her voice neutral. Hunter Vexi moved with startling speed, powerful jaws opening to reveal rows of serrated teeth. The bite came precisely as Vera had anticipated, targeting the junction between neck and shoulder, a universal vulnerable point across most bipedal species. Vera did not flinch. She did not attempt to escape. Instead, she allowed the hunter's teeth to make contact with her flesh. The pressure was significant but controlled, clearly designed to demonstrate capability rather than cause serious injury. The hunter's breath was hot against her skin, jawbones creaking slightly with restrained power. Vera remained perfectly still, her eyes focused on the observation box where the officials watched. She wanted them to see her calm acceptance. She wanted every predator in the room to observe closely what happened when they bit a human. Hunter Vexi maintained the bite for several seconds before releasing and stepping back, scales rippling in what appeared to be satisfaction. The human acknowledges its place in the natural order. Harmony is established. The assembled predator species made various sounds of approval. The prey species remained silent. Vera raised her hand slowly, drawing all eyes back to her. If I may, she said clearly, I would like to offer an observation about this procedure. The hunter's head tilted in surprise. Prey were not expected to speak after the dominance demonstration. While I appreciate the cultural significance of this ritual, Vera continued, her voice projecting to reach the entire arena, I believe there may be some anatomical misunderstandings that could benefit from clarification. She turned slightly, indicating the bite mark on her shoulder, which was already showing signs of bruising, but had not broken the skin. Hunter Vexi's bite was impressively controlled. However, I noticed that the pressure was applied at a 23-degree angle to the trapezius muscle, which significantly reduced its effectiveness. A murmur ran through the crowd. Hunter Vexy's scales darkened in what Vera recognized as the Zephyrin equivalent of confusion. Furthermore, she continued calmly, the placement was approximately 2.7 centimeters higher than the optimal position for incapacitating a human opponent. May I suggest that a more effective approach would target the junction of the sternocleidomastoid and levator scapulae muscles? The arena fell completely silent. Prey species did not typically offer tactical advice on how to bite them more effectively. Administrator Zexy stood abruptly in the observation box. Representative Kessler, this is highly irregular. The demonstration has concluded. I'm simply offering anatomical information in the spirit of interspecies understanding, Vera replied, with perfect diplomatic courtesy. After all, if the hegemony's classification system is based on biological realities, wouldn't precise knowledge be valuable? Hunter Vexy had gone completely still. A predator's instinctive response when confronted with unexpected behavior from prey. In fact, Vera continued, turning slowly to address the entire arena, I've prepared some comparative anatomical analyses that might be of interest to the hegemony's classification committee. For instance, did you know that human endurance capabilities exceed those of nearly 90% of classified predator species? Our ancestors practiced what we call persistence hunting, tracking prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. The Proximan representatives' bioluminescent patches were now pulsing rapidly, and Vera noted with satisfaction that they had activated a recording device. Representative Kessler, Administrator Zexy's voice had taken on a warning tone. You are overstepping the parameters of the demonstration. My apologies, Vera said, touching the bite mark on her shoulder with clinical interest. I simply wish to contribute to the knowledge exchange. Perhaps we could continue this discussion in a more formal setting. I've brought extensive research on human physiological capabilities that might inform the hegemony's classification criteria. Hunter Vexy finally spoke, voice carrying a note of uncertain aggression. The demonstration is complete. The human has been shown its place. Of course, Vera agreed pleasantly. And I've learned a great deal about Zephyrin bite mechanics. For instance, I couldn't help but notice the slight misalignment in your left temporomandibular joint. It creates an asymmetrical bite force distribution that could be corrected with simple exercises. The hunter's scales flattened in alarm, a clear indication that Vera's observation had struck home. Among predator species, acknowledging physical imperfections was deeply uncomfortable. This demonstration is concluded, declared Administrator Zexy firmly. All residents will return to their assigned duties. As the crowd began to disperse, Vera caught fragments of conversation from both predator and prey species, noting with satisfaction the confusion and reassessment taking place. She had made her first move. A slender DeLorean approached her as she exited the arena, their crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. That was unexpected, they whispered, voice modulated to avoid being overheard. No one speaks after the bite. No one offers advice. Cultural differences, Vera replied with a small smile. On Earth, we believe knowledge should be shared freely. They will not appreciate this approach, the DeLorean warned, crystal structures darkening with concern. Perhaps not initially, Vera agreed. But I believe in establishing honest diplomatic foundations. The DeLorean's translucent appendage gestured subtly toward a corridor. The predator wing is buzzing with discussion. You've created quite a stir. Good, said Vera simply. That was precisely my intention. Back in her quarters, Vera carefully documented the day's events, paying particular attention to Hunter Vexy's physical responses and the reactions of the observing officials. The bite had been exactly what she expected, a ritualized display designed to reinforce psychological dominance rather than cause injury. She applied a healing compound to the bruise forming on her shoulder and began composing a formal request for an audience with the Hegemony's Classification Committee. The first predator had been allowed to bite her. Now, it was time to ensure that all of them understood what would happen next. The following day brought a summons to Administrator Zexy's office. Vera arrived precisely on time, datapad in hand, containing her prepared presentation. Representative Kessler, the administrator began without preamble. Your behavior during yesterday's Harmony demonstration was disruptive and inappropriate. I apologize if cultural differences led to misunderstanding, Vera replied smoothly. On Earth, the exchange of knowledge is considered the highest form of respect. The demonstration is not meant to be an exchange. Zexy's scales rippled with irritation. It is a recognition of biological reality. Ah, Vera nodded thoughtfully. And is biological reality not best understood through scientific observation and analysis? I've prepared some comparative data that might interest the Classification Committee. She activated her datapad, projecting a holographic comparison of various species' physiological capabilities. For instance, human cardiac efficiency combined with our bipedal locomotion allows us to outpace every known predator species in distances exceeding 10 kilometers. Administrator Zexy's tail twitched in what Vera recognized as discomfort. The Classification Committee has already determined humanity's status. Your presentation is unnecessary. Science is always evolving, Vera countered pleasantly. Just as I helped Hunter Vexy understand how to improve their bite technique, I believe the Hegemony might benefit from updated information about human capabilities. Hunter Vexy has filed a complaint, the administrator said flatly. Your analysis of their physical characteristics was considered deeply offensive. I'm sorry to hear that, Vera said, appearing genuinely concerned. In human culture, offering assistance with physical optimization is considered helpful. Perhaps a cultural liaison could facilitate better understanding. Before the administrator could respond, the communication panel chimed. The Proximan representative from the observation box appeared on screen, their bioluminescent communication patches pulsing in formal patterns. Administrator, the Omega Committee requests Representative Kessler's presence at tomorrow's session. Her unique perspective has generated interest. Zexy's scales darkened in what Vera interpreted as frustration. The human representative's schedule is quite full. I would be honored to attend, Vera interrupted smoothly. Scientific exchange is why I'm here, after all. After the call ended, Administrator Zexy fixed Vera with an unblinking stare. You should understand, Representative, that challenging the Hegemony's classification system is unprecedented. I'm not challenging it, Vera replied with perfect diplomatic poise. I'm simply offering additional data to enhance its accuracy. Surely the pursuit of truth aligns with Hegemony values. The administrator's tail twitched once more. You were selected for yesterday's demonstration because humans are newcomers to the Hegemony. Your species classification as Prey Plus was considered generous, given your physical limitations. How fascinating, Vera said, her expression betraying nothing but scholarly interest. I look forward to discussing those perceived limitations with the Omega Committee. As she left the administrator's office, Vera spotted Hunter Vexy in the corridor, surrounded by a group of various predator species. Their conversation ceased abruptly as she approached. Hunter Vexy, she greeted with a respectful nod. I hope you're well today. I've been researching Zephyrin physiology further and have some additional observations about optimizing jaw alignment for more effective biting technique, if you're interested. The hunter's scales flattened in what might have been embarrassment or anger. The emotional distinctions in Zephyrin expressions were still sometimes difficult for her to parse. The human continues to speak out of turn, Vexy growled to the assembled predators. But Vera detected uncertainty in their posture. Not at all, she countered pleasantly. I'm simply engaged in knowledge exchange. For instance, did you know that human neck muscles can withstand up to 450 newtons of force? Your bite yesterday was approximately 210 newtons. Impressive control, but hardly at full capacity. I imagine. The other predators shifted uncomfortably, some exchanging glances that Vera interpreted as confusion or reassessment. The demonstration was ceremonial, Hunter Vexy said stiffly. Not a true dominance display. Of course, Vera agreed readily. And I participated willingly in that ceremony. I'm merely suggesting that our species might benefit from more accurate mutual understanding. For example, she turned to address a Centaurian predator whose facial tentacles were twitching with interest. Did you know that humans can maintain consciousness and cognitive function after losing up to 40% of our total blood volume? Our emergency medical training includes techniques for remaining operational despite significant injury. The Centaurian's tentacles froze in what Vera recognized as surprise. This conversation is inappropriate, Hunter Vexy declared. But Vera noticed that none of the assembled predators moved to leave. My apologies, she said with a diplomatic smile. I sometimes get carried away when discussing comparative biology. I'll see you all at tomorrow's Omega Committee meeting, perhaps. As she walked away, she heard the low murmur of conversation resume behind her, noting with satisfaction that her carefully planted seeds of doubt were taking root. That evening, Vera received 3 separate meeting requests from predator species representatives, all expressing interest in her comparative biological analyses. She scheduled them strategically, ensuring that each would occur in public spaces where others could observe. By the time she entered the Omega Committee's chamber the following day, word had spread throughout the station. The gallery was filled beyond capacity, with representatives from both predator and prey classifications watching intently. The committee members sat on an elevated platform, their seating arranged hierarchically according to their species classification. Administrator Zexy occupied a middle position, scales displaying a pattern that Vera's cultural training identified as extreme tension. Representative Kessler began the senior committee member, a massive draconian whose iridescent scales shifted hypnotically as they spoke. You have requested the opportunity to present information regarding human physiological capabilities relevant to classification criteria. That is correct. Honored Committee, Vera replied, activating her presentation display. I believe there may be some misunderstandings about human biology that have led to potential classification inaccuracies. For the next 40 minutes, she delivered a meticulously researched presentation on human evolutionary adaptations, emphasizing endurance, problem-solving under pressure, tool usage, and cooperative hunting strategies. She included historical documentation of persistence hunting techniques, modern endurance athletes, and the neurological advantages humans possessed in crisis situations. In conclusion, she said, gesturing to her final display, a comparative analysis of species recovery rates from various injuries. Humans may lack the immediate striking power of many predator species, but our endurance, adaptability, and cooperative capabilities suggest a more nuanced classification might be appropriate. The committee chamber had remained utterly silent throughout her presentation. Now, as she concluded, a low murmur spread through the gallery. The draconian senior member leaned forward. You have presented interesting data, Representative Kessler. However, the Harmony demonstration clearly established the biological reality of your species' vulnerabilities. Vera smiled. With respect, Honored Committee, the demonstration established only that I allowed Hunter Vexy to perform a ritualized bite. Had this been a genuine confrontation, the outcome might have been quite different. Hunter Vexy, seated in the gallery, rose to their full height. The human suggests they could resist a true predator attack. This is absurd. Not resist, Vera corrected calmly. Survive, adapt, and ultimately, prevail through endurance and strategy. Humanity's evolutionary path favored different advantages than immediate killing power. The Proximan Committee members' bioluminescent patches pulsed in a pattern that Vera recognized as indicating interest. Would you be willing to demonstrate these capabilities you describe? A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. Prey species were never invited to demonstrate capabilities. I would be honored, Vera replied, careful to keep her satisfaction hidden. This was precisely the opening she had hoped for. Administrator Zexi's scales darkened with alarm. This is highly irregular. The classification system has served the hegemony for centuries. And systems that cannot adapt eventually fail, Vera noted mildly. Scientific progress requires constant reassessment of established beliefs. The senior Draconian raised a massive clawed hand for silence. The committee will consider Representative Kessler's request for a demonstration opportunity. This session is adjourned until tomorrow. As the chamber emptied, Vera found herself approached by numerous representatives from both predator and prey classifications. The DeLorean she had spoken with after the Harmony demonstration sidled close, crystalline structure glittering with excitement. No one has ever challenged classification before, they whispered. The prey wing is buzzing with hope. I'm not challenging classification, Vera corrected gently. I'm simply advocating for scientific accuracy. A towering arachnoid predator clicked their mandibles nearby, clearly eavesdropping. The human speaks of survival through endurance, yet I could inject enough venom to paralyze 3 of your kind with a single strike. Vera turned to the predator with a polite smile. A fascinating capability indeed. Did you know that human military personnel undergo venom resistance training? Our biochemists have developed compounds that can maintain neurological function despite paralytic agents. I'd be happy to share the research with you. The arachnoid's multiple eyes blinked in synchrony, a gesture Vera recognized as surprise. Your species is unusual, they finally commented. We like to think of ourselves as adaptable, Vera replied pleasantly. That evening, she received a formal notification that the Omega Committee had approved a practical demonstration of human capabilities to be held in Arena 7 the following day. The message included a curious addendum. Demonstration parameters to be determined by mutual agreement between Representative Kessler and Hunter Vexi. Vera smiled. The confrontation she had been carefully orchestrating was about to unfold, exactly as planned. Arena 7 was filled beyond capacity when Vera entered the following day. She wore a simple black bodysuit, designed for maximum mobility. Her hair pulled back in a practical knot. She carried no weapons or tools. This demonstration would rely solely on human capability. Hunter Vexi waited in the center of the arena, their scales gleaming under the bright lights. The hunter had clearly prepared for the encounter, wearing lightweight armor over vulnerable areas and ceremonial markings indicating formal challenge. Administrator Zexi's voice echoed through the arena. This demonstration will establish the validity of current classification through practical assessment. Hunter Vexi will demonstrate predator capabilities. Representative Kessler will demonstrate human endurance. The demonstration concludes when one participant submits, or the committee determines a clear outcome. Vera approached the center of the arena, stopping a few paces from Hunter Vexi. She bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect before competition. Before we begin, she said, her voice projected throughout the arena, I wish to clarify the purpose of this demonstration. I am not here to prove human superiority or Zephyran inferiority. I seek only to demonstrate that the current classification system may benefit from greater nuance. Hunter Vexi's head tilted in what appeared to be confusion. You invited this challenge, human. Your species' physical limitations will be exposed. Perhaps, Vera agreed amiably. Or perhaps we'll all learn something new today. The signal to begin came as a low-frequency tone that vibrated through the arena. Hunter Vexi moved immediately, covering the distance between them with startling speed, powerful jaws opening for a strike at Vera's throat. She didn't attempt to match the Zephyran speed. Instead, she pivoted smoothly, using the hunter's momentum against them, redirecting rather than resisting. The bite missed her throat by centimeters. "Interesting technique," she commented, already moving to maintain distance. The anterior neck approach is instinctive for most predator species, but leaves you temporarily overextended. The hunter growled in frustration, scales darkening with aggression. They circled Vera, looking for another opening. "Your evasion merely delays the inevitable." "Perhaps," Vera agreed, carefully controlling her breathing to maintain optimal oxygen intake. Though human persistence hunters would track prey for days, conserving energy while their targets exhausted themselves. The hunter lunged again, this time aiming for her shoulder. Vera allowed them to make contact, but rolled with the impact, reducing its force. The Zephyrin's teeth grazed her skin but found no purchase. "Your bite technique has improved since our first encounter," she noted, rolling to her feet with fluid grace. "Better angle of approach." The gallery had fallen completely silent, predator and prey species alike, watching with rapt attention as the human continued to evade the increasingly frustrated hunter. 10 minutes into the demonstration, Hunter Vexi was showing signs of fatigue. Zephyrins, like many ambush predators, were not evolved for extended exertion. Vera, meanwhile, maintained steady breathing and controlled movements, conserving energy with each action. "You're beginning to understand the concept of persistence hunting now," she said conversationally as she sidestepped another lunge. "Predators evolved for quick kills must expend enormous energy. If the prey can endure those initial attacks..." The hunter's next strike was faster, but less controlled, driven by frustration. Vera used the opportunity to demonstrate another human capability, turning defense into counterattack. As the Zephyrin overextended, she delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster where their jaw connected to their skull. The hunter froze momentarily as neural feedback disrupted their motor control. Exactly as Vera had calculated, based on her studies of Zephyrin physiology. "That was a demonstration of applied anatomical knowledge," she explained to the stunned audience, maintaining a respectful distance as the hunter recovered. "Humans lack natural weapons, so we study vulnerabilities instead." Hunter Vexi regained composure, scales now displaying a pattern that indicated wariness rather than pure aggression. "You prepared for this." "Of course," Vera agreed readily. "Strategic preparation is a primary human survival trait. We analyze, adapt, and develop countermeasures. It's how a physically weaker species survives." The hunter circled more cautiously now. "The demonstration was to show predator dominance." "No," Vera corrected gently. "The demonstration was to assess classification accuracy. And what we're demonstrating is that classification based solely on immediate physical capability is incomplete." She turned slightly to address the observation box where the committee members watched. "Honored committee, what you're witnessing isn't human superiority. It's specialization difference. Hunter Vexi possesses superior bite force, speed, and natural weapons. I possess superior endurance, analytical capability, and adaptive strategy." The Proximan committee members' bioluminescent patterns had intensified to near blinding brightness, an indication of extreme interest or excitement. Hunter Vexi, seemingly rejuvenated by a momentary rest, launched a new attack, a complex feint followed by a strike at Vera's legs. She recognized the tactic from her study of Zephyrin hunting behaviors and responded appropriately, but allowed the hunter's claws to score a shallow cut across her calf. Blood welled from the wound, and a murmur ran through the predator section of the audience. "First blood to Hunter Vexi," announced Administrator Zexi, scales showing satisfaction. "Indeed," Vera acknowledged, applying direct pressure to slow the bleeding while continuing to move. "And now I'll demonstrate human pain management and injury adaptation." To the visible surprise of the audience, she continued to move fluidly despite the injury, her breathing pattern shifting slightly to accommodate the stress, but her movements remaining controlled and efficient. Human pain perception is modifiable through training, she explained to the gallery. Our nervous systems can prioritize survival function over pain response when necessary. 20 minutes into the demonstration, the contrast had become stark. Hunter Vexy's movements had slowed significantly. Their breathing labored. Vera maintained steady, efficient motion, conserving energy and demonstrating the endurance she had described in her presentation. I believe this demonstration has provided sufficient data, she finally said, addressing the committee directly. Hunter Vexy has demonstrated impressive striking capability and natural weapons. I have demonstrated human endurance and adaptive strategy. Neither approach is superior. They are evolutionary specializations for different survival contexts. The senior Draconian committee member rose, massive form towering over the observation box. The committee acknowledges the demonstration's completion. Both participants have displayed their species' capabilities adequately. Hunter Vexy's scales displayed a complex pattern that Vera's cultural training suggested indicated conflicted emotions, frustration at not achieving dominance, but also a new uncertainty about the assumed prey before them. Your species, the hunter began, then seemed to struggle for words. You are not what we thought. Few species are, once you look beyond surface classifications. Vera replied with a genuine smile. I would be happy to continue our cultural exchange in a less adversarial context. As medical personnel approached to treat her leg wound, Vera addressed the gallery once more. The hegemony's classification system serves an important organizational purpose. I merely suggest that perhaps the categories of predator and prey fail to capture the true complexity of evolutionary specialization. The ripple of conversation that spread through the arena suggested her words had found purchase in many minds, both predator and prey. In the days that followed, Vera found herself at the center of unprecedented diplomatic activity. The Omega Committee convened an emergency session to review classification criteria, with Vera invited to present additional information about human capabilities and evolutionary history. She used the platform strategically, inviting representatives from other prey species to share similar information about their own evolutionary specializations. The DeLorean representative demonstrated their species' remarkable regenerative capabilities. A Solarian showcased their ability to metabolize toxins that would kill most predator species instantly. By the third day of hearings, several predator species representatives had joined the discussion, acknowledging limitations in their own evolutionary design and suggesting a more nuanced approach to interspecies classification. Administrator Zexy watched these proceedings with increasing alarm, their scales displaying patterns of deep distress as the established order they had enforced for decades began to shift beneath them. This is unprecedented, they complained to Vera during a recess. The classification system has maintained harmony for centuries. Has it? Vera asked mildly. Or has it maintained a particular power structure that benefits some species while limiting others? The administrator's tail twitched in agitation. You don't understand the chaos that could result from disrupting established hierarchies. Perhaps, Vera acknowledged. Or perhaps what you perceive as potential chaos is simply the discomfort of evolution. Systems must adapt or become obsolete. True in biology, true in governance. On the seventh day of hearings, something remarkable happened. Hunter Vexy requested permission to address the committee. I have been reconsidering my understanding of survival capability, the hunter began, scales displaying a pattern Vera had never seen before. The human's demonstration revealed inadequacies in my perception. I have begun studying what they call persistence hunting and find the strategy worthy of respect. A murmur ran through the chamber as the hunter continued. Perhaps our classification system's emphasis on immediate killing capability overlooks other equally valid survival strategies. I formally request committee consideration of revised classification criteria that acknowledge diverse evolutionary specializations. The senior draconian's massive tail thumped against the floor, a gesture indicating profound surprise. "You advocate for classification revision? A Hunter class representative?" "I advocate for accuracy," Hunter Vexy replied, using Vera's own phrasing from earlier sessions. "The harmony of the hegemony depends on mutual understanding, not artificial hierarchy." The hearings continued for 17 days. Vera presented extensive documentation, coordinated testimony from diverse species representatives, and facilitated unprecedented dialogue between traditionally separated classification groups. Throughout, she maintained perfect diplomatic poise, never directly challenging the hegemony's authority, merely suggesting refinements to its scientific understanding. On the 18th day, the committee announced its decision. After extensive review of presented evidence, the Omega Classification Committee acknowledges the need for system refinement. The senior draconian declared, "Effective immediately, the binary predator-prey classification will be supplemented with specialized capability designations, acknowledging diverse evolutionary adaptations." The announcement continued with technical details of the new classification framework. But Vera was watching the gallery's reaction. Prey species representatives displayed various signs of cautious hope. Predator representatives showed a mixture of confusion, interest, and in some cases, relief, as though a burden they hadn't recognized was being lifted. The most surprising reaction came from Hunter Vexy, whose scales now displayed a pattern that Vera's cultural training identified as indicating intellectual engagement rather than aggressive dominance. Furthermore, the senior draconian continued, "In recognition of demonstrated capabilities and diplomatic contribution, humanity's classification is revised from Prey Plus to Adaptive Persistence Predator, with specialized designation in cooperative strategy." Vera maintained her diplomatic composure, but allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. The reclassification itself was less important than the precedent it established, that the hegemony's seemingly immutable hierarchy could be influenced through strategic knowledge application rather than force. In the weeks that followed, Vera's quarters were relocated from the Prey Wing to a new section of Omega Station 7, designated for specialized capability species. The architecture was noticeably different, spaces designed for collaborative interaction rather than hierarchical reinforcement. Her diplomatic credentials were updated with her new classification designation, and she received a formal appointment as Interspecies Harmony Advisor to the Omega Committee, a position created specifically to facilitate ongoing classification system refinement. Perhaps most remarkably, Hunter Vexy requested permission to study human persistence hunting techniques and strategic analysis. This unprecedented cross-classification knowledge exchange soon attracted interest from other species representatives, leading to the establishment of a formal interspecies capability sharing program. 6 months after her arrival at Omega Station 7, Vera stood in her new office, a spacious chamber with walls lined with comparative biological analysis displays and windows overlooking both the former predator and prey wings. Now undergoing architectural modification to reflect the new classification framework. Administrator Zexy entered after a formal announcement, their scales displaying a pattern that Vera now recognized as grudging respect. "The Hegemony Council has approved your proposal for a diplomatic exchange program," they announced. "Representatives from traditionally separated classifications will participate in cooperative problem-solving initiatives rather than dominance demonstrations." "Excellent," Vera replied with a genuine smile. "Evolution requires adaptation, in species and in governance." The administrator's tail twitched slightly, a gesture that had once indicated agitation, but that Vera now understood could also signal thoughtful consideration. "Your approach was unexpected," Zexy admitted. "No species has ever challenged classification through knowledge rather than combat." "We didn't evolve to overpower predators," Vera explained. We evolve to outsmart them, outlast them, and eventually, to understand them. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our physical capability, it's our adaptability. The hegemony is still adjusting to these changes, the administrator noted, scales shifting in a pattern indicating concern. Some traditionalists fear disruption of established order. Change is always uncomfortable, Vera acknowledged. But preventing evolution is ultimately futile. Better to guide it toward mutual benefit than resist it until it forces its way through. As Administrator Zexi departed, Hunter Vexi arrived for their scheduled knowledge exchange session. The hunter had become a regular visitor. Their initial hostility transformed into scholarly curiosity about human evolutionary strategies. "I have been practicing the endurance techniques you demonstrated," the hunter announced, scales displaying a pattern of satisfaction. "My hunting efficiency has improved by 23% through application of persistence principles." "Excellent progress," Vera replied with genuine pleasure. "Today, I thought we might discuss human cooperative hunting strategies, how coordination multiplies effectiveness beyond what individual capability might suggest." The hunter settled into a learning posture, their formerly intimidating predator stance now modulated into attentive focus. The concept of strength through cooperation rather than dominance remains challenging to my instincts, but the empirical results are undeniable. Vera activated a holographic display showing ancient human hunting parties working in coordinated patterns to direct prey movement. Humanity learned long ago that survival depends not on being the strongest individual, but on creating the strongest system. As they studied the display together, predator and prey in classifications that no longer fully applied, Vera reflected on how effectively her strategy had unfolded. She had allowed the first predator to bite her, knowing that the true victory would come not from resistance, but from redefining the terms of engagement. A message notification chimed softly on her communication panel. It was from Earth's Diplomatic Corps, responding to her 6-month progress report. The message was brief, but deeply satisfying. Classification Revision Initiative exceeds all expectations. Hegemony Council has requested human advisors for system-wide implementation. Your diplomatic approach of demonstrated capability, rather than confrontation, establishes valuable precedent. Congratulations, Ambassador Kessler. Vera smiled and turned back to Hunter Vexi, who was studying the cooperative hunting display with intense focus. "Let's continue," she said. "We've only just begun to understand what different species can learn from each other when we move beyond simplistic classifications." And throughout Omega Station 7, in corridors once rigidly divided between predator and prey, representatives of diverse species began to move more freely, their interactions guided less by ancient hierarchies and more by mutual curiosity about the different paths evolution had taken to solve the universal challenge of survival. Vera had let the first predator bite her, not in submission, but as the opening move in a game she had always intended to win through understanding rather than force. In the end, the most dangerous predator had proven to be not the one with the sharpest teeth, but the one with the patience to change the rules of the hunt itself.